Hey friend, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Lindsey Bush, an online mindset, fitness, and nutrition coach and creator of the Empowered Method, where I help busy women train their minds, train their bodies, and in turn, transform their lives. Each week, we're going to be talking about all things mindset, fitness, and nutrition related. It is my goal to bring you tangible, bite-sized tips that you can apply to your own health and wellness journey. Today's going to be a quick one, so let's dive right in. Today, what I want to discuss with you is the concept of movement as medicine. So what does that even mean? That means when you have feelings such as stress, overwhelm, anxiety, depression, using movement as a tool to move through and process those feelings versus some of the coping techniques that many people, myself included, we often see people engage in when things like that are occurring in their lives. Simply sitting in those feelings and those emotions can be detrimental for a lot of reasons. It takes longer to then move through them when you are not physically moving. And then we also tend to engage in some somewhat destructive coping mechanisms. So things like emotional eating, drinking after a stressful day, or to numb out whatever negative emotion or negative feelings you might be having. Another one that I am super guilty of is online shopping, scrolling social media, binging Netflix. And it's not to say that any of these things are inherently bad, because I don't believe that they are. However, if you have some other things going on from a mental health perspective, you might be using these as a way to distract the brain, and it then takes longer to move through whatever it is you're experiencing. So there are many studies that are starting to come out that show and prove the effectiveness of things like regular exercise and sauna use, for example, as treatment for mental health related concerns. And many of these studies are showing that exercise and sauna use are equally as effective as prescription drugs to treat certain mental health related situations. Now, certainly, I don't believe that that is a cure-all from a mental health perspective. I am a huge advocate of getting prescription help when needed, or seeking help from a mental health therapist. This is just another tool to add to the toolkit that you may not be thinking of. The reason that I wanted to drop this episode as soon as humanly possible was because I was having a conversation with someone very close to me a couple days ago, and this person was sharing with me that they were feeling particularly down, depressed, overwhelmed, lots of feelings of sadness. And I said, hey, have you still been getting out for your walks? And the person responded, no, I really haven't been. And I said, when you're starting to feel those feelings tick up for you, maybe you should go out. Could you consider going out and getting a 5 to 10 minute walk? It is a super effective way to not only distract the mind in a more healthy way, but to also start to process through those negative emotions that you are experiencing. I never really understood what this meant until I experienced it myself. I like to joke a little bit. I mean, it's funny, not funny, but ever since Blakely was born, I have experienced some traumatic events that were kind of what felt like life-altering at the time, and processing through them was very difficult for me. She was in the NICU when she was born. That was something that I had never even considered really as a possibility. I mean, obviously, it's a possibility, but it was very unexpected. She was not preterm or anything like that. So it was just a shock. And then leaving the hospital without a baby was just not something I was prepared for. And then add on, the hormones, all the raging hormones that happen after you give birth. And it was just a lot. And I didn't know how to deal. For those of you that haven't been around for a while, she, at about 18 months old, suffered 3rd-degree burns to her hands. And so that was during COVID restrictions. And so when that happened, I was in the hospital with her alone for a week on a pediatric burn unit. And oh my gosh, it was incredibly traumatic. Very traumatic for her, traumatic for me, traumatic for other members of our family. It was just a really rough situation all the way around. And I still to this day struggle with it. And I can remember in the early days coming home from being in the hospital with her and being back home dealing with the burns here, I went out one day for a run. I needed to get a run in, and I can remember I'm sitting in my office right now. I can remember like going out on the sidewalk, taking like 3 steps that direction to take off for my run, and I just lost it. And it was so overwhelming, the emotion, but for it to be able to physically move through my body, it was such a game-changing, I don't even know, release for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I needed that so much. And like when I was early with Peloton, for example, being a Peloton user, people used to comment in the groups and say things like, oh, you know, I cried on the bike today and da 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 da. And I'm like, what? And then I had an experience where that happened to me. And I was like, wow, how I felt afterwards. I was so grateful to have that experience because it helped me process through and move through so many of the emotions that I was experiencing. So I just wanted to drop this and share with you, if you're struggling in some kind of way, whatever it might be, not only do I strongly encourage you to seek out the help that you need, but also consider using movement as a form of self-care and medicine. It's not about getting in a workout or burning calories. It's about physically moving negative energy through your body, allowing your mind to relax and to process through some of the things that you might be experiencing. Another great form of self-care, of taking care of your mental health, is to practice gratitude. And I like to think of exercise and movement as a celebration of the things that our bodies can do, not what they can't do. For most of us, we are blessed with the ability to physically move our bodies. And I think oftentimes, or at least I know for me, it's very easy to take for granted my mobility. And when I think about the potential of that ever being taken away from me, it's devastating, because I will tell you that my personal workouts are just as much about my mental health as they are my physical health. When I am in that space, that's when I'm processing through thoughts. I'm working through whatever, it's not all the time, but if something's going on in my life, like that is my time to either put it on a shelf, or like I'm sorting through the thoughts and the feelings and letting them tumble around. And I can tell you, very rarely do I finish and feel worse. So it's a great opportunity to practice some gratitude for your body's ability to move that energy through you. Release some feel-good endorphins. That is always really helpful in that state. So this is another reason that I actually really prefer to work out alone, because that's like my time. And so, if you've been around for a while, you know that like I will go on vacation and there might be like a public gym or a hotel gym available, and I much prefer to do my own thing, and that's why. I could go work out at less than a mile down the road at a very nice gym, but I want to be alone. I want my private space, and this is why. It's because I'm processing through a lot of whatever is going on in life. I've struggled with my mental health throughout my life, and that's something that I've very candidly shared. And so I'm a huge advocate of naming it, calling it what it is, and then using various tools to address it in whatever way that you need. And this is just one way that I have found that has really helped me. It has helped a lot of people around me. They say that moving has really pulled them out of some really dark spaces. And so I wanted to share that with you. And you don't have to be in this like terrible place, but we all have these feelings of stress, overwhelm. We find ourselves numbing out in whatever way, or whatever, in whatever, pick your poison, right? Dealer's choice. What's your go-to numbing coping mechanism? But using this is such a more effective tool. So by moving your body, you're forcing those thoughts, those feelings, that energy through you. So with that, I hope that you will consider next time that maybe things are feeling hard or they're feeling heavy, that you remember this chat, and you get up and you take a walk, and release some endorphins, move that beautiful body, and hopefully you will end it feeling much better than when you started. If you found this helpful, if you know someone that might be struggling and you think that movement might help them, please share this with them. I know that it is foreign to some people, but if you can just open your mind to giving something new a try, I think that you'll find that it can be incredibly helpful. So with that, I will let you get back to your day. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you on the next one. Love you. Bye.